Brecken.
What happened to our Popster XL or whatever those are called?
Those are not called the Popster XL.
I'm pretty sure that I know what it's called.
You've got a limp popster.
This is just nothing.
Well, I think
Call me Limp Popster also did not qualify for the Bunta Classic pod race.
the Bunta Classic.
Isn't that what it's called? I
Taking
think
my
it is.
popster. Hands off my popster, sir.
Popster, sir. Could you get rid of that?
That is a British town.
Popstershire. Welcome to Popster.
People say
Call it
James's
Popster, but
accent
it has
is
about
bullshit.
3,000 additional
But he's a
letters.
resident of Popstershire.
It's May 13th, 2015.
This is Idle Thumbs 210. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Sean Vanneman.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
I am James Spafford.
Hey, Spaff.
How are you doing? You like how I said my name this time?
I did.
There's like
did
a
like
sweet
it.
gap in the middle there.
Yeah.
How are
What's
you
your
guys?
middle name?
Ellis.
That's
I never knew that.
Really? There you go.
You should grow a beard and go as Ellis from Die Hard for Halloween.
Who is
A
Ellis
full
from
beard.
Die Hard?
He's the 80s douche. He's like, Hans, booby, I can give him to you. That guy? Remember that guy? He's like,
No.
like
It's like
Ms.
80s
Gennaro's like dickhead
bearded
office
businessman.
room. Yeah. It's a perfect script,
is
Die
this
Hard.
beard appropriate?
No,
it's
you
gotta
got to
be way
thicken it up a
shorter.
little bit.
Okay.
Way shorter. We got to be way
You got to fill it in as much as you can.
I
And
don't know
then,
if you can. I don't know if you can simultaneously
in.
shave and fill that in.
Well, no.
I think it's as thick as it's gonna get.
for the readers, James has very Spaff has very Spanish facial hair in terms of the way his mustache does not connect to his beard and the way his cheeks do not fill in. Yeah, I mean, if somebody said, if you didn't speak, and then somebody said, "Oh, that's my friend Spaff. He's from Barcelona," or whatever,
Do you think
be
I'd
like,
get away with that with my kind of Mediterranean
Yeah,
features?
yeah.
Do you guys want to actually
coloring.
open with a reader mail? I think that maybe we should.
What? Wow, how
Oh, yeah.
unorthodox!
I think I know the reader mail you're talking
Rick
about.
Wolf writes,
Yeah.
"Who is this Spaff guy?" I think we've all been wondering this the last few weeks after this person appeared.
Did we just soft launch the Spaff?
Hey, Thumbs, who is this Spaff guy? I don't think you guys have properly introduced him beyond his name, though I could be wrong. I'm unconvinced that he is not Nick Brecken donning a parentheses mediocre British accent.
Wow, take
That would explain why he is the chosen operator of the Nick Brecken, quote, soundboard. Love the show, Rick Wolf.
Rick Wolf.
Good question, Rick. I'm glad you asked. It is actually Nick Brecken, and this is an elaborate ARG we've Let's been also running. point out that Rick is probably
brother
short
of
for
Law and
Richard,
Order
for which
creator
Dick
Dick
is also
Wolf.
short, so this is probably just Law and Order creator Dick
Oh
Wolf.
man, you're right.
Writing
Wow.
under his pseudonym, mediocre pseudonym, Rick Wolf.
I don't know. Rick Wolf's not too bad. That's better than my accent.
That's true. No, sorry, Rick. I didn't mean to be mean to you.
My accent that will become more and more American and weird as time goes by. So you can look forward to that.
Well, who are you?
Who am I? I am Spaff.
James Ellis Spafford.
I work at Double Fine. I used to work at Media Molecule, but the reason I'm here is because I co-founded Idle Thumbs back in the day before it was a podcast, when it was a weird website. That
You
Jake
sound more British
and
when you say the word podcast.
podcast.
Yeah.
Would you like me to be crazy British instead?
No, I think it's fine.
My name? No, that's like décolleté.
We said more British, not more
There's
old.
a treasure here in that Heradric cube.
Yes. That's where I come from.
The
Put
Heradric
Nick Brecken and some other thing.
You come from Act 2.
Nick Brecken and a massive bag of taffy into the Heraldric cube. Heraldric cube.
I think it is just Heradric. It has nothing to do with heraldry. It's a made
No,
up,
it is. It
it's
is
a made up
Heradric.
word.
Where are we?
So that's who I
England.
am. I'm Spaff from England. I'm now here in America, where I have moved to work for Double Fine.
Listeners of old Idle Thumbs will probably recognize Spaff from a couple GDC episodes back in like 2011 or 8 or something like that, and a couple other, you guessed it, on a few episodes of Idle Thumbs.
We did one in my
GDCs.
apartment where Spaff was there.
Yep.
And if you're a true listener, then you'll remember the very first Idle Thumbs podcast, which was myself and Marek BM
2007 or
Bromstring.
something?
Yeah, the Thumbcast. It predates this podcast by a couple of years.
Do not listen to it.
Yeah, it's not very good, Spaff. I gotta
3
say,
episodes or something.
Shit. Yeah, no. It was great. Anyway, sorry. Had to get that out of the way because people were asking who this strange man was on our podcast.
The weirdos that just showed up and then stayed here.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. Stay a while and listen. I used to be able to do a much better Deckard Cain back when I played like 12 hours of Diablo
When
2
you
a
heard
day.
him say that a bunch.
Yeah, it just seeps in.
Cool.
Man, Diablo. Has anyone? I assume no one here has. Has anyone played Diablo 3 since they like changed it all?
Yeah.
Since it's
I have.
consoled.
Is it? I heard it's like much better now.
It's super good.
Yeah.
They
I watched Ollie play it on the PS4.
So they
Or PS3,
took out the entire like real money shop thing,
Right,
just
yeah.
junked that, which was amazing. There's something like no one ever does that. No one ever says, "Hey, this huge money making thing, let's get rid of it. Let's bin it." They took that out and they kind of made a super good end game. They added all the difficulty in that people wanted. They made it so it just never ends. Basically, it keeps going, and keeps generating more gear to get.
Right.
I really enjoyed it, and they've added a bunch more since I played it too. They started adding like you could kind of grind for these things that open portals to like special dungeons with bosses and stuff that were all randomly generated for more loot, and then they added. Have they added PvP now? Maybe
I don't even know.
they've added. I haven't played it for 6 months or something, but it was the Diablo 3 that kind of everyone wanted. At
Right.
launch.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, as
You
much
could
as
skip forward to the hard bit instead of just playing
there you
through
go.
like
Yeah.
layers of easiness.
Yeah, as much as I'm not as like sort of automatically enamored of the Blizzard formula as much as I was, in the sort of late 90s or early 2000s, I still really, really respect their just like institutional just understanding of what it means to support a game in the long term. It's pretty impressive. The amount of support they put into Diablo 3, which I think still sold quite well, but wasn't like probably not as well as they projected it to. I get the sense.
But they also figured out how to make it meet its projections.
Yeah, I know, but that's
Just
cool.
by
Like, that just
redoing
doesn't-
almost like most of how it operates.
for being a company that is part of Activision, that is not a studio that works. Like Activision is not a public studio. What am I talking about? Activision is not a publisher that works that way. Generally, they'll just put out a new one of the whole new that series a year later, and just do that forever. It's I don't know. It's an interesting.
It's interesting. They've
combination
definitely
of philosophies of the same
definitely
company.
looked at World of Warcraft stuff, and it's been going 10 years now, and has evolved and evolved and evolved. And I've been back into there a couple of times.
Oh really?
as well,
Oh
and
man, I haven't played
see
World of
how that's
Warcraft in
changed.
years.
It's fun to go and stick your head in there, and
Yeah.
I remember.
There's a
this place,
newish
and-
expansion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's kind of good. It's they go back in time to. So the Burning Crusade is in the weird alien land, which you may remember, Sean,
All the floating.
which is all like blown up and destroyed. But
Yeah.
it's going back to when that was not a blown up, destroyed mess.
Oh, that's cool.
And kind of changing the orcs' destiny and stuff. So you get to see a bunch of the.
Do you play it by, in
historical
fact,
orc
stepping
things.
into a time portal? Like, is there
You go through a
strange-
huge portal.
Good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you go beyond the dark portal?
You go. You are not prepared for it though. Apparently. They also
If you
added
read the
weird.
FAQ, you are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, then you're totally prepared.
Then you know exactly where to go, what gear to get, and stuff. StarCraft, I imagine, will get similar treatment.
Well, there's an expansion coming out, which
Well, they have to release all 3 races of StarCraft II.
I know.
right?
It's
Have they not done that
unbelievable how
yet?
long that game is going to have taken to make by the time it comes out.
What?
I've said this on the podcast before, but I had a friend in college who was also a music major, like I was. No, like video game. I don't even think we talked about video games that much, really, at all. But it turned out he ended up getting a job at Blizzard. Nothing to do with music. He just ended up applying for and getting a job at Blizzard, and I think has been working on StarCraft II since we graduated from college.
Wow.
Yeah. It's That's like the scale
been his
of the
entire
development.
career path.
Yeah,
Wow.
of that game. Yeah,
Are you going to play the expansion?
I don't know. I've heard interesting things about it. It sounds cool. Like there's some cool co-op stuff that they're doing. But I don't know if I have it in me to dive back in.
I'm into co-op.
If Nick Brecken wants to get back into it,
Is this a
as,
challenge?
Well, you and Nick
two-
played in the co-op ladder for a while. Like you actually,
yeah.
Right when StarCraft II came out, you guys every night were like,
Yeah, and
up
yeah,
there.
we were in the Platinum League. We were decent for sure. Not like amazing, but we were pretty good. And if you were into that, I would get back into StarCraft.
So this is
in a lighter way,
said.
in a less deep way than I did before.
So it'd be
Nick
time
Brecken,
for,
if you're
it'd be time for
listening.
StarCraft Today for sure.
Oh God.
So, readers, if you want this to happen, he's at Nick Brecken on Twitter. You can just fill his at replies with requests for this.
For him to return to StarCraft.
We would like that very much.
Yeah.
You guys should
Sure,
just
why
get
not?
really into Heroes of the Storm. They're,
Is that their Dota like?
yes.
Yeah.
Like
it
a
is.
baby version?
No, it's not
for
like
you?
that at all. It just doesn't. It just feels. I mean, it's like I don't know. Like if you own a decent car and you like it, and then somebody's like, "Here's just a different one," where like the pedals are in different places and stuff. You're like, okay, like why would I make the switch? Like it kind of works. The one I have is fine, and it's continually improving. Or I'm learning to appreciate it more. Yeah, I don't know. It just
How's
like,
that car analogy holding up for you?
not
Yeah.
good. Unlike, yeah, it just I don't know. It doesn't really, doesn't congeal. Doesn't set up. It's like a flan that just turns to water, and you're, it's gonna set up like a
Keep going.
flan.
Your analogies are amazing.
It's like a flan car,
What else? What
It's
else?
like
is
when
this
you've
game
been
like?
driving a car for years and you're so accustomed to it, and someone's like, "Try this instead," and they give you a flan,
And it turns
and
into
you're
water.
like, "This is not the same as what I'm used to."
I sat on it and it didn't get me anywhere.
Yeah, it just turned into water.
Ta-da!
Heroes of the Storm.
Rhetoric.
Put that on the box.
It's downloadable only. Speaking of things that come in boxes,
Yeah,
Jake's been playing some board games. Fuck yes. Call that a seg.
This is a video game podcast, Sean.
This is look. We're gonna blur the lines between
I
reality.
would call it a downgrade. I would call it a major downgrade from what I was promised. Early promotional materials show this to be about video games, and you're hinting that there might be board game discussion inside of this podcast?
I was not just hinting. I was overtly expressing that there was going to be. But I'm starting to.
Guys, I'm sorry.
I'm thinking about retracting.
We were planning on making a video game podcast, but it turns out that playing a lot of video games was a lot more meticulous a task than we thought it was going to be. So we're going to talk about the board games we played this week instead, and it's probably be a similar experience for you as a customer.
Do any of the board games have a video component, like Atmosphere back in the 90s?
No, man, I talked about that game. That
Doesn't Roll to the Galaxy have an audio component?
No.
no, you're thinking of Space Alert, probably.
Space of it.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
No.
Although that is good.
That's super good, that game.
Have you ever played the one that
I was also conflating it with that other rolling game, their Escape from the Temple of Dice.
Oh, no.
The Temple of Dice.
Probably.
You started talking about board games, Sean, because you actually just wanted to talk about one big board game that you've been wanting to talk about for a while.
Correct.
What is it?
This is now also our board game blast.
Twilight Struggle.
Oh man, I played that game once years ago. It's crazy.
It is so. Twilight Struggle is a 2-player board game that is a guess a card-based strategy game that has been sort of. If you go to like BoardGameGeek.com and look at their like review, like there were review rankings,
If you can find them.
It has been the #1 board game on there for like years and years and years and years. And this game has finally just been it's been re-released over the past couple of years. But it is a strategy game where one person plays as the USSR and the other person plays as the United States. And it simulates the Cold War from 1945 to 1989. And your goal is to just get victory points, but you do so by like employing the different war maneuvers, both explicit and covert, that all make up the Cold War. It's so good. And the thing that's amazing about it is long-time listeners to the podcast will remember that we played this game called Imperial 2030, like back in like
2009,
9,
like
10.
60s, 70s, those episodes.
Yeah.
basically
Back in the 1960s.
And
In the Steve Gaynor days, in the lost 13 episodes of the Idle Thumbs podcast.
Yes.
51 through 64.
correct. And something we kind of kept saying about that game is that the design of it did a really good job of making you appreciate sort of the strategic and economic advantages of being in certain places on a world map, whereas like the Middle East in that game sort of becomes this like hot pot of
the Middle East
strategy.
in Imperial 2030 is just always a military disaster no matter
And just
what.
people, it's
Yeah.
always switching hands. Money is
Yep.
going in and out. It's just a mess. And the thing that's so amazing about Twilight Struggle, and I'm sure you experienced this, Chris, back when you played it, is that the way the game is set up and the way that you kind of like place you're given influence, and that's sort of your ability to. That's the
Influence.
currency of the game. Is, well, there's many currencies, but the way you kind of score points is by like maintaining and holding influence in regions all over the globe. And the way the initial influence you have is set up, and then the way events unfold over the course of the game really gives you a very fundamental appreciation of how the politics, but also just the circumstances of the Cold War kind of came together to create the tension that your parents talk about. Maybe not your parents, Spaff. They were just like, we're fine.
Yeah, they just talk about the Germans and stuff. You know,
So, yeah.
it's different.
But when you think about your, like, if you live in America, your parents telling you, like, oh, yeah, or just in my case, just my dad, oh, yeah, we sort of, like, knew about having to, like, get under your desk because we were worried about the nukes. It makes you appreciate that stuff in a way that is on a meta scale that I hadn't really thought of. It all feels so fantastical, but the game does such a very good job of doling out all the events of the Cold War as historical fact, and you're like, oh wait, this happened.
Like, have you got an example from when you were playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a great example would be
Who did you play with?
Adam.
Okay.
Yeah, my buddy. We were both learning at the same time. There's a great website called twilightstrategy.com, I think was the blog that we sort of read when we were beginning to play. And it really like streamlined the learning process in a way that classically like the instructions of this game did not. But a great example was knowing that I needed, like there was an, like,
Were you the Soviets or the Americans?
I was the Americans. And I knew that if I could get Adam out of Cuba, like my life would be way easier. Like, because he could just kind of keep sort of like planting influence in my home region, making it really hard for me to score points and making it really hard for me to expand and like to sort of like have a stronghold the way he did in the USSR. Because basically, the way it starts when he's able to like layer his influence onto the board at the beginning, it tells you exactly where to put your influence points. He's just like, good. Like, I am the stalwart Russian bear. Like, I'm solid. Like, I've got a nice front here. I control this region. There's no sort of like middling fingers of the United States in any of my stuff. But he starts with influence in Cuba. So when I'm thinking about, okay, it'd be really great to get him out of Cuba, I can incite a coup. But coups are really, really hard to pull off. And they also increase the DEFCON score of the game. So if you go down to DEFCON 1, the game explodes and it's over. So if you're the person who like basically pushes the nuke button by doing some sort of act of aggression, you lose instantly. So you're watching the DEFCON score kind of drift up and down, looking for a good time to create a political coup to like just make your life a little easier. And then when you think about it, you're like, oh, wait, what I'm doing actually is like getting a bunch of rebels to like just be murdered by the government so I can be more influential here. When you think about what was actually happening, you're like, oh, I just need to incite a coup. That's all I got to do. That was something that I was always kind of thinking about. When I realized that I could just like lock down an entire area of the map by like inciting a little coup in Venezuela, I would do it casually as long as it wasn't going to like ruffle any feathers. But it just gave me a good appreciation of of that idea of like, oh, there's a coup in, you know, whatever, Colombia, who cares? When you read it in the news, but it gives you a strategic understanding of like, oh yeah, that's the upside of doing all these things. But there's an emotional and like human cost that the game does a really nice job of like dryly stating.
I think despite the similarities, it is very different, but it actually reminds me of playing DEFCON by Introversion. Just like, I mean, that is United States versus Soviets Cold War simulation, but it's very much based on war games. It's a PC game. It came out a while ago now, actually. But
several years ago.
Yeah, it probably has been 10 years. Jeez. But the way that game works, it has a DEFCON meter that goes up as well. So in the higher rated DEFCONs, you're sort of just moving units around and sort of scoping out things, flying planes over places and stuff. But then once you start, that game basically inevitably drops to everyone just nuking everyone else. But when you attack a city in that, just the way that it's presented immediately makes you think about the actual, like, you're at such a weird abstracted level.
You're so removed.
But then when it says framing, like 200,000 dead or whatever, because you actually
you're the guy sitting at the terminal watching,
and it feels so much like just going and then just seeing a number on the screen that it's actually like paralyzing in its nothingness. And I know it sounds like your experience is different than that, but it had that same element of the game abstracts stuff enough that you get a weird sense of what the big picture might feel like, to the point that you can even like hypothetically sort of put yourself in the eyes of the people that would be impacted by this were it real.
For sure. Mm-hmm. I think the difference between that is that when you're playing DEFCON, the PC game, which you should totally pick up, it's like cheap on Steam, but the presentation of that game makes you readily apparent of the consequences of your actions. Mm-hmm. It's very concerned with that in the moment. Just the way like a number fades up of how many people were just incinerated, you know? Whereas I didn't really realize, I wasn't building those connections playing Twilight Struggle until afterwards, until I was in like a like
you were like the consequence free like CIA guys just sliding stuff all over the place and not even caring that there was a real world that you were impacting.
Exactly right. Yeah. There's this great quote, like, and a lot of the cards have quotations on them, so it can be like you can play an event that's like there's a war between India and Nepal, you know, and that has strategic impact on the board and things like that. Or like, oh, there's a war that you can incite in whatever, the Central America, stuff like this. It's not like throwing a coup. There's a quote on one of the cards from a United States, somebody in the U.S. government saying, "This is an all-out war. If at the end of this there are 2 Americans alive and 1 Russian alive, then we have won." Like, it's like I'm butchering it, but that's the quote, and it has nice things like that, like little historical errata all over the cards and
so one thing that is... Oh, sorry, Spaff.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, in that scenario, why would you leave 1 Russian alive?
Maybe he's a really sexy Russian.
Surely it's only over when maybe he's a really...
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. Something
if you've gone that far, if that
you leave that 1 Russian alive to just so you can lord the victory over him.
Yeah, you can't win if there's none left.
Yeah, there's no one to feel superior to if he's gone.
The DEFCON, I'm glad you brought up DEFCON because I think it highlights another difference in how you can represent something like war, which, you know, is such a complex, weird thing because it's represented in entertainment in a way that, you know, is generally so different from obviously the reality of it, both on a micro scale and a macro scale. DEFCON essentially, the whole thing all exists in a sort of it's one system. It's like the people who die in this city are the same as the people who die in that city. It's just a matter of how many of them there are. So DEFCON is the one that gives you the sense, the sort of awestruck horror about the scale of human lives involved in this kind of mass warfare. Twilight Struggle is the one that kind of makes you aware of the impossibility of decision making on a grand scale.
Right.
Like Defcon is not so much about decision making; it's more about the inevitable tragedy of mass warfare, regardless of individual decisions. Whereas Twilight Struggle, I think, is very much about, because it's based on historical events. There's no it's not balanced, right, in the way that a sort of traditional war game, that a non-historical war game tries to be.
Right.
Right, like a fictional made-up war. Like Twilight Struggle is like you can do this or this, and they're totally unrelated things. Basically, that's like one of them's incite a coup, and one of them is form a pact or whatever. Like there's things that are not like apples to apples.
It's actually
comparisons.
explicitly not that, and that every card has. So you play the game by pulling some cards off a deck. There's a late game. There's an early game deck, which is the first 4 years or the first 4 whatever eras. Then there's a mid game deck. And then there's a late game deck. And those cards never change, and it's not a deck building game or anything like that. But those cards get shuffled in as the years go on. The years, it's 12 years or whatever. And each card, it's actually I like that you said it's not apples to apples, because it's explicitly the opposite, in that each card has a historical event that has an outcome that can be advantageous to the Russians or to the Americans. And it also has a score. So between 1 and 4, and you can choose to play a card for its event outcome, or you can take its score and apply it to influence on the board. I'm going to put, okay, this has got a score of 3. I'm going to put 3 influence points on the board. Or you can take a card and just score and event agnostic, just burn it and put it towards the space race. So you have all these, every card is not just its event or its score. It's just 3 very asymmetric decisions you can make.
But it card sort of ends up becoming an item of value, and
exactly
you choose
right.
sort of where it goes. Yeah.
And you never quite know exactly what to do, because your opponent has got a long game in mind as well. So you're making the best possible decision you can with the information you have, which I think is a great simulation of these two powers trying to fucking win a war that's
international
unwinnable.
conflict is that forever, right?
It feels I felt for 3 hours basically Smiley and Tinker Tailor just trying to piece something together, right, and get a new piece of information and use it to the best I can, but know that ultimately I was probably going to lose. And it has huge swings. The game is really balanced. Early on, it has a lot of Russian strength. And then if you are smart and expand well as the United States in the late game, you have a bit of an advantage. So it's got this really nice sort of power curve that switches towards the mid game.
Who won?
I did. The United States.
Right.
But the scoring is really good. It's not the first readers. You can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but I'm moving them both up 2 mutually exclusive columns. It's not you're trying to race to 20 points and I'm trying to race to 20 points. It's a tug of war. It's an actual struggle, in that the scoring mechanism goes to 20, but has 0 in the middle. So if on this turn you gained 5 points and I gained 4, you only gained 1. So Adam got all the way to 19 of 20 points, and then I pulled the score all the way back to 20.
Oh my God.
Over the course of an hour and a half. But that's so fun. It's so good.
I love winning.
Highly recommend. You should play it again. And
I know,
Jake,
it's been years, so I don't remember.
You would love it.
I'll
just bring it into the office.
It's funny, really quick, Chris, what you were saying about this game, about Twilight Struggle being set in real life, so therefore the you can't balance it. And when you first said that, I thought you were talking about that in comparison to Defcon, but I imagine you were talking about it in comparison to something like Civilization, where you can roll a balanced world from scratch. Because Defcon, even though Defcon is really pared down and stylized, Defcon does have a multiplayer mode. But I remember, at least when it came out, it actually kind of got dinged pretty hard by a lot of people because of the fact that it was basically not possible to balance Defcon multiplayer, because it takes place on planet Earth and just has all of the actual restrictions that Earth has.
That's true, and that's a good point. And what all I meant about DEFCON being sort of more of this system, it was just the sort of interchangeability of.
Oh yeah. DEFCON's just about that one particular thing,
right?
But it's funny to think even a game that reduces that down because they made the one choice
the
to
shape
keep
of
the United States and Russia or whatever. It's just like there's going to be certain things that you can and can't do well. You only have this many ports and this much like seaboard and stuff. You know,
and that's very much at odds with sort of classical notions of what game design balance is. Which seeks to be as symmetric as possible, which I guess goes back to like chess and Go.
Right. It's funny though to think about that. We've talked about this to death at this point, but I guess it's interesting that games of like chess and Go and fucking checkers, whatever, are simulations of war, but things like Twilight Struggle and Defcon, because they take the asymmetrical or the asymmetry of reality into consideration, are probably far more accurate.
Well, there's an interesting
or you get more of the realistic play of war out of it.
Right. The way that human beings think about war has changed a lot over history. There's a great podcast called Hardcore History by a guy named Dan Carlin, who's sort of an amateur historian and like extremely well read. He, in particular, I think is most interested in ancient Rome and the Mongols and World War II.
I guess that's true. If your wars are soldiers getting in like 5 lines of different types of units and then basically marching towards each other, classic board game design maps a lot more cleanly.
Yes, he talks a lot about how he did a great like 6-part series called, I think, Blueprint to Armageddon or something, that was about World War I that he just finished, and a lot of it was about how attitudes toward warfare. World War I was really kind of the fulcrum point for these attitudes changing from, for example, the classical European and British conception of war as like sort of a noble, almost adventurous pursuit to something that was like a professional endeavor that has like tactics and there's always been tactics, obviously. I mean, there are ancient generals that are still read in and taught at West Point, but there definitely was a different approach in how, for example, infantry were used, and that became much messier in the 20th century, and that had a lot to do with sort of the technology that was available and as well as various other factors, and definitely the modern conception of war. We still have sort of stirring adventure tales of war, but I think the modern conception of war is much messier and much less just sort of purely noble than was seen in ancient times or even relatively recent history.
Yeah, we've also probably just unmasked some of the honesty. I mean, if you think about a game like Crusader Kings, Crusader Kings has no symmetry or rhyme or reason to it. It's complete insanity, but it feels more honest to history.
Because that's not just warfare, it's also like infinite political maneuvering and
but I mean that's also
intricate claims of ownership and like legality and
but that's what modern war is.
I guess what I'm trying to say, Chris, I think that's also is included to a certain degree in something like Twilight Struggle.
Okay. Oh, sure. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the sort of names of the cards and things in Twilight Struggle are definitely deal with actual historical
it's kind
and
of a combination of not romanticizing war, but also taking it one step up and being honest about everything that's potentially in play. That is just the complete insanity of humanity.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to toss out another recommendation for Hardcore History, that podcast that I mentioned, because it's really good if you're interested in history, particularly military history, which I'm not even really, but I still love that podcast.
Come on now.
Yeah. I've never been a military history guy, but
no, Dan Collin is like that college professor you had who was the good one.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who is just okay,
exactly.
I don't really care about like the politics of Eastern Europe, but I am ensorcelled by
the college professor.
Do not stop speaking, please.
So good that you consider adding a minor or changing your major because the class makes you realize that.
I now feel like I'm actually genuinely more interested in that stuff than I was before.
For sure.
So anyway, Hardcore History. It's a great podcast. He releases them very rarely, but when he does, they are big and hugely well researched. And
listening to one episode makes you realize why they take so long.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You guys want to take a break?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to talk about underpants, Chris.
Video game.
We'd like to thank a medium-term sponsor of the podcast, MeUndies. They're back to bring us cool and comfortable underpants and the sponsorship of this episode. If you haven't been to MeUndies, they sell men's and women's styles of very colorful underpants. They also sell cotton basics like t-shirts and socks.
They're very high quality.
Yeah. I have some MeUndies and I like them very much. They have lots of, like, literally, like, tens of styles, like 20 different colors.
Dozens, some would say.
But they do a monthly style, which I like. And their one this month is called Desert Daze. And
Is it Desert Chrome underpants?
it's Desert Chrome underpants. You're right. Like, what, the fucking Photoshop filter?
Yeah, like the sunglasses reflection.
No,
Oh, okay.
no. It's sort of like
That's next month.
It's sort of like a reduced down, like Santa Fe, New Mexico style, like patterns and shapes.
So
they
it's
look
bold,
really
it's
nice.
bold seasonal underpants.
Yeah, I check their monthly styles, and it usually gets me to put something in my cart. So I think that's. And I'm a discerning underpants.
So I've heard if you
shopper.
put something in your cart, you can save big with
20% and free shipping. It's MeUndies.com/thumbs. Shipping? Not going to pay for that. By a postman who's probably wearing MeUndies because he likes to be cool on his.
He could be in a commercial where the dog bites his pants and then he like runs away and there's a hole in his pants and you can see his MeUndies.
You can see
Through
then
the-
it
through the
zooms
hole.
in and says seasonal pattern
I'm
Southwest
saying
style.
pants in American style.
Oh, he would have an American flag or something.
Yeah, I guess why not?
MeUndies.com/thumbs. Thanks.
Jake,
Sean,
can we be honest about something?
I know where this is going, and yes,
We know you're going to snack.
I am.
I know it. Spaff knows it.
I've seen you snack.
I piled a bunch of snacks into my mouth right before recording this.
Can I
very
give you my
episode.
personal opinion about your snacking?
Yeah.
I think you want it to be worth it. So, I think you should probably snack on some NatureBox.
I should probably snack on some NatureBox. That's true.
You know what NatureBox is.
I do. NatureBox is a delicious snack subscription service that is sponsoring this episode of Idle Thumbs. They, you can go to their website and sign up, and is it once a month? They'll send you a box full of snack food items of a bazillion varieties: savory, crunchy, sweet, fruit, nut things, baked items.
Dried pineapple slices. So good.
That's really, if I respected myself more, that's basically what I would eat every day as my snack.
You would like triple stack those.
Yeah, and then on the weekend I'd use them to make cocktails.
That's perfect. That's a
I
perfect.
mean, you
use
have
of
in
your
fact done that.
Yes, I have. It's delicious.
They have over 100 snacks.
I said bazillions, but I meant over 100.
They have described them as crave worthy.
Man, this is just right up my alley.
Yeah,
I crave snacks. These are crave-worthy snacks.
Let's say you think you might crave them.
If I wanted to like sample the cravings, the hundreds of cravings available,
God.
I would probably go to naturebox.com/thumbs and get a free sampler pack.
Exactly what you get a free trial by going there.
Oh, that's all that I want.
naturebox.com/thumbs.
Shut up.
So a non-sponsorship thank you to Idle Forums user Secret Asian Man, aka
The
David
secret
Wang.
Asian man.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, David Wang.
David Huang writes, "Hey Thumbs, your resident Candyman here. You may have received another big box of candy from me by now. We have.
May and did.
I've been promising Danielle Junior Mints for months now, and I thought it was about time I followed through on that. I've also thrown in a bunch of other stuff I thought I'd explain. So before I read the rest of this email, we got a box today from David, a large box that included many delicious things. I'll now read his full list here. He says, the Nerds Ropes are for Jake, of course. The Goldfish are for Chris. The Junior Mints are for Danielle. These will arrive later because they weren't available on Amazon Prime. The Fudge is for Nick because Fudge Nick Brecken. The Taffy is for Spaffy. The Gummy Bears are for Sean because I couldn't think of a good joke and gummy bears seemed safe. The coffee syrup is for Danielle or Spaff. He seemed the most confused by the concept of coffee milk. And the assortment of Kit Kats is for everyone because they look really good. I couldn't get everything in one shipment, so if something is missing, it'll probably show up eventually. I hope everyone enjoys their goodies, and of course, feel free to share. Keep up the great work, and I'll continue to rot your teeth and ruin your appetites. Sincerely, David, a.k.a. Secret Asian Man. So we're still waiting on Goldfish, Junior Mints, and Kit Kats.
I was going to say that gummy bears are delicious. My favorite candy
For the record. Just for the record.
is either
Big bag of gold.
Raisinets
Oh, yeah. Those are good.
or I was gonna say this, but then I realized what it was: a York peppermint patty, which is just a smushed Junior Mint. It's just a Junior Mint that got smushed.
Junior Mint.
It just got smushed.
I feel like the consistency of the inside of it.
Junior Mint.
Like Junior Mint. What is that?
I don't know.
Smush Junior
I
Mint.
had a sip
It's
of
just
that.
like
I had a
it's
sip.
like sort of
I had a
up and
sip
coming
of this coffee
mobster.
milk.
Yeah, so at the
Smush
break,
Junior Mint
at the
got
break,
made last
God,
week.
Chris, what are you doing?
Bring a Junior Mint.
Oh my God, I was going to talk about coffee milk. We were going to talk about
Coffee milk.
Because we were talking about Smush Junior Mint.
The problem is I took a sip of this and it made my mouth basically coated in phlegm.
This is the official drink of Rhode Island or something.
Yeah, Danielle could not be here this
who
week,
couldn't be here.
so we're going to drink this gross coffee milk.
Readers, we are drinking whole milk with high fructose corn syrup, coffee flavored extracts in it.
This is the official drink of Rhode Island, and
It's
therefore
very sweet.
of Danielle.
It's like melted ice cream.
It really is, yeah. She described it as, as basically coffee ice cream.
it's just melted coffee ice cream. It's
Melted
gross.
coffee ice cream. Well, it's not.
It's kind of weirder than I thought it would be.
I would
Kind of more
put-
licoricey or something.
I am a person
You could mess
who
with the-
doesn't
you could
handle sugar and
mess with
lactose
the-
very well.
Oh, I like milk, but
I love it, but instant water shits going. Like, that's all I know is happening
With
here.
all of this said, I think we should read some reader mail.
Smush Junior Mint's got a
Smush
poops
Junior
problem.
Mint.
I got about 17 minutes before this makes its way through my system.
We better get on with it. Thank you for these things, and thank you for the giant bag of taffy that is bigger than anything ever. We will
Oh yeah,
try
that
and
is a
eat
big
that.
bag of taffy.
We don't have taffy in England.
Really?
Well, we have toffee.
Yeah, but that's like more of like a caramel
We
sort
have
of situation.
those. I don't know what we'd call those. Chews or something tedious like that. Taffy is a cooler name.
Yeah. Taffy's something I've always known existed, but I don't think I've ever had in my entire life.
Until now.
So I haven't had it yet, but I will, I guess. So Adam Famolaro writes, "Hey Thumbs, I heard you talk about Valve's former hat economist and finance minister of Greece, Yanis Varoufakis.
Oh, yeah.
I came across an article on Stereo Gum that proposes that his wife, Dana Statou, was the inspiration and woman in the song Common People by Pulp."
What?
Yeah.
What?
He is basically the most fascinating man on earth.
Yeah, there's an article that he links whose headline is "Greek politician agrees that Pulp's Common People is probably about his wife."
What? How? Okay, I need to read this because how did a band from Sheffield in the UK write a song about the
you'll
Greek
be-
finance minister's wife? This is
They're big Half-Life fans.
As The Guardian
Yeah.
points out, Jarvis Cocker affirmed that the woman in the song was not just a literary device in a 2013 BBC 5 interview. "I did meet this girl," he said. "She was at St. Martin's doing a different course. We were at a bar and she was going on about how she wanted to go and live in Hackney with the common people. And I thought, well, that's a bit much, but I did fancy her, so I thought, am I going to let it go or shall I take her to task?" So then last week, the Greek newspaper Athens, Greece used the song's opening line, "She came from Greece, she had a thirst for knowledge, she studied sculpture at St. Martin's College," as clues. According to that paper, the woman in question is Dana Statou, an installation artist who currently lives in Austin, Texas. Statou, it emerges, was the only Greek student to study sculpture at St. Martin's between 1983 and 1988, the same year as Cocker was studying film at the same institution. Stratou's husband is Yanis Varoufakis, Greek controversial minister of finance. As it turns out, Varoufakis sure seems to agree that the song is about Statou.
This is crazy.
He said, "Well, I wouldn't have known her back then, but I do know that the only Greek student of sculpture at St. Martin's College at that time. And from personal experience, she is a very fascinating person."
That's a good way of putting it, I guess. Wow, that's really mind-blowing.
Yeah. All right, so Jeffrey J. writes,
Sorry, I just read the lyrics of Common People.
Oh, you're just going through them? Yeah, there's some good shit in there.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Yeah, this is why it's like really that was
it feels like,
actually
yeah,
about a
probably her.
person.
Yeah. Yep, well, nailed it.
Jeffrey J. writes, "Hey, Thumbs,
Hey, Jeffrey.
hearing Spaff talk about his accidental purchase of Bloodborne on PS4.
Oh my god, I heard about that.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Still unresolved.
It reminded me of something similar that happened to me about a year ago. About a week before the new Wolfenstein game came out on Xbox One, I decided to have a look at the Xbox store to see if it was available for preload. I was watching a movie at the time of checking, so I decided to use the Smart Glass app. To use this, you still have to turn on your
Yeah,
Xbox
Smart
for some
Glass.
reason. I still don't know what Smart Glass is, by
It's
the
a
way.
second screen experience, Chris.
Well, now I know.
I have no idea what that means.
That was helpful. I type it in the search bar.
It's like how you can snap stuff, but imagine if that was on your phone.
What do you mean?
It was
How you
different
can
content.
snap stuff? What are you talking?
God, Chris, give us
you don't know
the
anything about
fucking picture.
It's like
You
the
don't know anything
blades
about
of the
Xbox
modern
One, man.
era.
No, I don't.
It's
I'm trying to use terms that anyone can understand. These terms are fucking honed down to be easily digestible by consumers.
Snapping stuff is like you're watching fucking.
We're just playing this now.
Like you're
it.
watching the Western Conference Finals, but you want to play, like
Okay, Chris, you have your
video
Connect
game
on.
and
It's looking at you, and you
snap
want
into the corner.
perhaps something
Wait.
else to appear at the same time as your game. So you say
It's a picture-in-picture.
it's a sorry.
So you
Snap
say-
is just
Okay,
the Xbox
you
One
could've said
picture.
that. Okay, yeah.
So you say
I get it.
picture-in-picture Xbox.
It's just a stupid smartphone app that has all your Xbox shit on it. That's all that it is.
Smart
All right.
glass.
So this guy was using that. He says to use that, you still have to turn on your Xbox for some reason.
Because it's all garbage.
Man, my mouth is really milky.
yeah.
coffee milky.
I need a green apple to get rid of all that shit.
How about some
Tip,
gummy
by
bears?
the way, we never actually do this, but if you eat a green apple before going on mic, you will get rid of all that crappy
Apple juice will also
stuff
work,
in
but
your
green
mouth.
apple is the best.
Unless you're just busy eating the apple whilst recording, and we go. Oh, the script is very good. MeUndies.
All right, so someday I'll complete this email. He writes, I type it in the search bar, I find the listing, and I go to the store. There were no details or price whatsoever apart from some screenshots. All of a sudden, my Xbox controller falls off the couch. I didn't think anything of it, so I picked it up and put it back where it was. 2 minutes later, I got my receipt from Xbox for my purchase of Wolfenstein for Xbox One, which cost 290 Australian dollars.
Wow.
I know this all sounds far-fetched, so I went through the effort of finding the original receipt. He includes a receipt. It's crazy. It says, before tax, $260.59. Sales tax, $26.36. Total for this order, $289.95. Quantity 1.
Jesus.
Anyway, he got
Just
a
doing
refund.
some conversion for you there. That's $230 US.
Good job, Microsoft.
Fucking Wolfenstein.
Yeah, apparently it was
well,
it was a pricing error, and they refunded him the money eventually.
that's good.
Keep up the good work. You make my daily commute a lot easier. Jeff from Melbourne.
Sorry, you suffered a Microsoft ecosystem error as well as a pricing error.
Alex McLinden writes, Hey Thumbs, I know podcasts always say reviews are helpful to leave, but I always wondered, are all reviews helpful or just 5 stars?
Oh, hadn't thought about that.
I, of course, wouldn't leave a low review for Idle Thumbs, but sometimes I'm listening to another podcast, and I wonder if a 3-star review would help or hurt them. Thanks, Alex and Marilyn. I'm sure he's asking for a friend here.
Yeah.
I wonder if a 3-star review would hurt them or help them.
Yeah, I don't actually know the answer to that.
I mean, if their reviews are like 1, they're a solid 1, then the
Yeah.
3 is like going to
Definitely
really
step up.
yeah.
But it might help them like emotionally.
better. Yeah.
It might like urge
Not
them
like,
on.
oh,
Well,
man, we let this
we're not
person down.
awful. We're not in the toilet, but
Yeah.
we could clearly do better.
No, I think
Guys, we implore you to go give us a bunch of 3s. Watch this. The quality of this podcast
I
will
got
go through the roof
bunch
after
of
that.
3s.
it is generally safe to say that people would prefer that you only review the podcast if you like it. However, receiving some honest feedback is also always welcome.
In email form.
You can leave it wherever you want, but try to like leave more 4 and 5-star reviews than like 3-star reviews. You can send us a tweet that just has like 3-star emoji. And then like 2 screaming cat faces to represent the other 2 stars, and then tell us what you think.
Those iTunes reviews are crazy as well. Like, we just put Broken Age up, and we got a whole mix of reviews. But then you read the reason for some of these things. Someone's like, I really, really like this game, and my daughter loved it. The art is really good, but it's too big. 1 out of 5. Like too big on my iPad. Like it's 2 gig.
You mean, just
too big the file size.
It takes up
1
the
out
whole
of 5.
screen.
Yeah, no.
They thought they could snap.
I really liked it,
too big.
but it's too large.
The concepts
to
are too
download.
heady.
Yep.
It's too much like the movie Big.
Where's that Zoltan machine or whatever?
Oh man, where is that
so-
Zoltan machine?
I don't know.
Andrew Sparks writes, Manconomy. Morning Thumbs. I was approached recently by a guy who was really interested in the items I'd obtained in Team Fortress 2 for pre-ordering the Sam and Max seasons.
Sorry, by saying I was approached, I immediately thought this was like in a coffee shop, had like Steam open, or even didn't, and someone went,
Yeah.
I hear you have that Max's severed
There's,
head.
there's probably a subreddit for tracking down people who have TF2 items.
Oh, there
you
absolutely are. Yeah.
Anyway,
I still have my hat, by the way, Sean.
Oh, good. I was hacked. Okay, let's move on.
so he had the Max hat and 2 guns, all cosmetic items with no in-game benefits. He asks if I want earbuds or games and provides multiple sites which offer independent valuations on in-game items.
Yep, been down this road.
I ask for games and provide a list to roughly the same cost as the valuation. Over the course of several hours, the chap is apparently involved in negotiations with other contacts, occasionally responding that he's acquired one of the games. I begin to picture a stock market floor with a guy holding a handful of cheap iPod earbuds, screaming, sell, sell, sell. After some time, we trade goods, and he asks if I'd leave positive feedback on his profile by way of commenting plus rep on his profile page comments. So not only is this economy built around imaginary earbuds, people are treating it like eBay with trader reputations to
of course.
uphold. There are financial analysts regulating the prices of cosmetic character enhancements within a fluctuating market. I only hope Valve doesn't try to raise revenue by leaking more buds into the market. Frankly, I'm still astounded that I was able to obtain $120 worth of goods from a 30-pound purchase several years ago. The worst thing is, I think he actually made a decent profit from the exchange. Andrew Sparks.
That guy did well.
Yeah.
Man, I was on Skype with this guy, William Blitz Lee, who's a Dota commenter.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about stuff and about to play a game.
Yeah.
And he plays a lot of CSGO, and he had a bunch of keys that he had just purchased on the gray market.
Mm-hmm.
And while talking to him, he opened up a crate that had the rarest knife, I guess, available of all knives that are in the market right now. And he made a noise on Skype that I've heard very rarely in a grown human person. It was just like,
Try to do it.
Oh my God.
like, it was an incredible noise. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? And then he linked me the knife that he got, and it was worth like over $2,000
Oh my God.
on the gray market.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
On the
Unbelievable.
gray market.
Black market, whatever, gray market. The unofficial market. You can't.
It's not that black.
$500 is the limit of the Steam marketplace. So if you put something up for $500, that's as high as it'll go in the Steam marketplace. So if you want more than that, you have to sell it on forums and things like
Right,
that.
yeah.
You have to arrange a back channel trade.
A BCT, please.
Wow. How does that affect the economy then when you go outside of regulation space?
I think it's still because there's still the purchase of keys, right? To open these crates is still being motivated by the value of a good inside of them. I mean,
Have I talked about the spreadsheet on this podcast? About the Max Hat spreadsheet?
Oh, the one that has the owners of all Max hats? Or no, you mean...
No.
No, you can't talk about that.
Okay, I won't talk about that.
You absolutely cannot talk
I don't
about
think that exists anymore, which is good.
Okay.
Because it would be a bad thing if that appeared. Anyway, I shouldn't talk about that. Sorry, you're right. I never know when it's okay. It's too soon. Chris.
When TF2's offline.
Tegan Robichaux writes in, robot news. We haven't done a lot of robot news recently, but this is crazy. So she links...
Well, we talk about those spiders.
Those spiders.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Okay, so she links to an article, and she gives us a TLDR on it. And her summary is, researchers at NYU Poly built a robot fish that assimilated into a school of real fish and became their leader.
What?
Which I think is also the plot of Terminator Genesis. And before I read this email, I read the article, and that's what happened. They built a robot fish with like a jointed tail that can swim in the water, but it doesn't look like a real fish.
No, it looks like an iPod.
Is just like a white gleaming robot, like cyborg
Yeah,
fish.
it's like Eve from WALL-E in
Yeah,
fish form.
exactly. That's what it looks like. But because it moves like a real fish does, the other fish just like all followed it, I guess.
Would they follow it like the way a fish follow a lure? Like they thought it was food? They didn't attack it?
No, it like was the forefront of a school of fish that were all swimming
It
together.
led them to victory against the other school of fish. which also then assimilated.
So when
the fish board.
when the robot wasn't when the robot fish wasn't moving, none of the other like real fish paid attention to it. But when the robot simulated the familiar tail movement of a leader fish, members of the school assumed the behavior patterns they exhibit in the wild, slowing their tails and following their robotic leader.
The leader fish.
Yeah,
I guess their tails move more aggressively
I guess so.
to lead the pack.
Yeah.
Whatever, the school.
The school.
This could be ruinous for fishing.
Like all
Yes.
so like all robot news, it is introduced with the researchers.
Oh, something cheeky.
Yeah, no, just with the most optimistic, positive version of what this could be used for.
Mm-hmm.
The researchers posit that robotic leaders could help lead fish and other wildlife that behave collectively, including birds, away from toxic situations such as oil or chemical spills.
And
into a
nets.
mound.
Yeah.
Giant nets.
Yeah, so, yep.
Is there a video of someone kicking the robot fish?
That's the true measure of whether it's movement.
There's a video of
leader
someone
movement.
thinking about maybe touching it in a pool and then being grossed out when it goes past their hand.
It's crazy how much this looks like the video game version of what this would look like. You know,
Right.
when people design robotic animals in video games, they always look a little bit too clean and designed and
Right.
like movie robot.
Right.
Whereas
It
like
looks
a big
like
dog
IDEO
doesn't look
invented it,
like
yeah.
that. But this looks
yet.
like the apple fish. Like it's like
Right.
the most. It's like the reduction of the fish.
I hope
shape.
that fish changes sides and starts fighting for fish, where we just have like, you know, it just then turns into like it would turn
Right.
into like a fish,
The John Connor of fish.
an aquatic
Right.
horror movie, you know, where but mixed with Terminator, where someone's fishing and then like zzz, zzz, and then they just get pulled in and are killed. All the nets are in fact snipped through like what you're supposed to do with soda, like a 6-pack rings, because that fish just goes like if
That
it just-
robot fish makes it impossible for humans to ever catch a fish.
Right,
again.
exactly. It's just like whatever. Yeah, it can outmaneuver and outfight any human fish
It's
trap.
like, look, fish, you're all very stupid. I come from them. I got you.
Really? No. If this fish drinking coffee milk then saying the words "this fish" is really hard. If this fish falls into the right hands, by which I
This
mean
fish falls.
if this fish falls, by which I mean like some wacky like 90s cyber activists who then just create an army of pro fish, smart fish. I'm totally down for that, because then they're pro
Fish, smart fish.
red fish, blue fish.
Look, that is the book that our children will read.
Exactly
They
right.
could
When the robot wars extend
Robo
to
fish?
Earth's seas. Yeah.
and they send them back in time to stop the world's
Yeah.
the fisheries from being overfished.
Our final battleground is below the waves, where sleek fish chomp nets and fishing poles at each other and lead other fish around for no reason. Real fish don't know what war is. Only robot fish do. What? Humanity is wiped
true.
out because of nuclear war, and our fish are still fighting our wars for us down under the sea. It could happen.
It's plausible.
It would be really pretty looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, David Attenborough would do a good
Pro-fish?
job narrating it.
Yes.
I feel.
Say pro fish,
Pro fish.
something fish,
I don't remember.
proto fish,
Real fish?
robo fish.
Probo fish.
A pro fish, smart fish?
Yeah.
Pro fish, smart fish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kevin Kuhn writes,
Cocoon.
Kevin Kuhn, perhaps, writes, TIE Fighter on a controller. Hey, Thumbs, this email is for Chris and isn't for public consumption. Oh.
Next.
That was incredible. That was incredible. The only thing more
You
incredible
should
is
just
if you
cut
kept
there.
speaking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's no personal information, but I won't read the whole thing. Anyway, this guy apparently came up with a very like workable controller solution for TIE Fighter. Last week I talked about playing TIE Fighter with an Xbox 360 controller and found it like pretty lacking relative to the number of things you need to be able to do in that game, the number of inputs you need. So he says he figured out a great solution that he wrote a blog post about over at Giant Bomb, a guide to playing X-Wing and TIE Fighter on a controller. Anyway, he goes way into it.
Anyway, do not read this email publicly because I am George Lucas. Signed, George Lucas.
You know,
one thing he does say, I'm going to read this part.
Good
He
try,
says,
Spaff.
"Tell Jake the Dark Troopers are from Dark Forces, not TIE Fighter."
Oh,
I
man.
knew that actually.
Since none
and
of it
forgot.
counts anymore, he's technically not wrong.
Yeah, they're from nothing. You're right, though. That is totally a Dark Forces thing.
Oh, and he bought me a copy of the GOG version of the game, which I guess is the one I need to do his thing. That's cool.
That's nice.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
The longest not publicly.
Yeah, that's a lot of
consumed
public
email
information.
There's a lot more.
What
that I
else did
didn't-
he put in this email that wasn't
Like,
shared?
We're not
all
gonna
the
find out.
details of the whole thing you did. Anyway, go ahead, Spaff.
No, we were talking about kind of playing single-player games cooperatively by sharing controls.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I always found it was games like TIE Fighter where you had to have kind of a joystick and a whole bunch of controls on the keyboard made for really good versions of those. I used to play Wing Commander like that and like Gunship 2000.
Did you have like
and
a
stuff.
shield operator? and
Yeah,
stuff
exactly.
Like that?
You have someone who's like the navigator that's like,
awesome.
on the keyboard and then
Yeah.
you're flying around or you swap around. That's a super good way of playing those things. It makes
Yeah.
it a lot easier. Recommend. I used to love playing. I love co-op gaming the most of all games, of all game types. And so like enforcing co-op onto
I was
anything.
like that for a while as well. Yeah.
Like anything that can be kind of played like that, then I'm probably going to do that. I love it. I'm like the opposite of Sean. Sean likes
No, I love co-op.
PvP.
It's just hard. No. I would much rather play a co-op game.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
I don't know if I believe that.
Dota is 5 versus 5.
Yeah,
Dota, you
cooperating
play
with
co-op
others.
versus
Yeah,
That's
four
not what
other
I think of
people.
when I think of co-op, but yeah, that's multiplayer.
Yeah, no.
team
I would
game.
much rather play with work with someone else.
like in a
to
multiplayer
achieve
team
a common
situation.
goal.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Or if I could find somebody to hot seat Bloodborne with me, that would be probably my
I'll see
ideal.
it's super good
Yeah,
as well.
that's fun.
Like co-op just has the ability to bring any game up a couple of rungs, and it's like how fun it is. Like it can be a pretty shitty game, but as soon as you can play it 4-player or something, then it just becomes hilariously good. Well, not always. But
Chris, are you ready to read the final email?
Sure. So, Matthias Tammet writes, Doge GTA. Yo, having just introduced someone to Doge 2048 during a media law lecture. If anyone doesn't know what this is, 2048 was a sort of seemingly Threes-inspired game that then in turn was cloned by like everybody in the universe for about 3 months, and someone made a version of it that had Doge dog pictures in
The
it.
best thing that someone did was make a 2048 make your own clone thing where you could upload all the
Right.
images yourself.
Yeah, yep.
And I made a really good Jay Allard one, but
Yep.
it's gone now.
Anyway, so he
was
says,
great.
having just introduced someone to Doge 2048 during a media law lecture, a Steam pop-up popped up promising me, quote, $1,200,000 in-game plus a bonus $300,000. Why not just say $1,500,000 if I pre-purchased GTA 5? In-game awards for pre-purchasing seems to be the norm for a number of years now. The first single-player game I remember that had them was Deus Ex Human Revolution, which came out in 2011. At this point, the PR strategy has gone beyond someone's silly idea. Obviously, it rebalances the game such that either the pre-purchase version or the normal retail version must be unbalanced. Maybe you've heard or have some insight into why developers are okay with this, or even why do pre-purchasers even want this? I imagine they actually do, because otherwise the incentives would not be offered so often. Cheers and good luck with my name, Matthias Tammet. I don't know how.
boom, nailed it. Probably.
Yeah, I remember seeing that actually when the Steam pop-up came. When it first hit my account as well, and I remember being really shocked. It just felt like a weird context for that kind of bonus. Just here's tons of money in the world of GTA. It was a very odd sensation. And just really
it's strange because it's a make-believe world
Yeah,
where everything has been selected in terms of your starting state.
yeah,
Hopefully
for a reason.
a reason that would be the most fun or the most interesting or the most whatever.
Yeah.
What does that money get spent on?
Haircuts?
Is it in like cool cars and paint jobs for a car and stuff? Because I guess
Gotta
if
eat
you were to offer
hamburgers?
someone a neat car like a Ferrari or something, then that's cool, but it doesn't appeal to everyone. But if you give everyone the ability to buy any car that they want in
Are
the
you saying
entire
it's
game, then
GTA 5's gift card?
yeah.
Well,
I
you're
mean,
also
it makes
getting
sense.
it for the PC version of the game, in which you can ultimately do literally whatever you want, including making whales rain from the
I can
sky.
put so many whales in the game. I
Hack
can
yourself to have
raise the
more.
It's
ocean
the
levels.
equivalent of pre-order this game and we'll give you this cheat code.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that's the equivalent. And as a kid, I understood the appeal of cheat codes.
Yeah.
As an adult, you know there's no shortcuts in life. No such thing as a free lunch.
Your innocent mind.
Well, they're also not...
Sorry, that really got me. Yeah.
Also, pre-ordering a like presumably $50 or $60 game like also isn't like being marketed as at kids. I imagine.
Chris,
I don't know.
imagine this though.
No.
What if you pre-order this $50 game and you get $1 million?
Yeah, that doesn't really seem like a business strategy.
That's how you pitch it to mom.
Yeah, that feels
Mom,
like
if you give me $50, I'll give you 1.5 mil.
Think of all of the cars and
That was when
cocaine.
I was a
GTA
when I was a kid and we went to the grocery store and my mom would buy groceries with cash and she would hand over like a $20 bill or a $50 bill and then they would give her a bunch of bills and coins back in change. I'm like, oh wow, you're getting so much more that you gave them one money and they're giving you this like a pile of it. That's amazing.
Man, you were that kid.
I know.
Yeah.
Chris has told so many stories about being a kid in wonderment of something banal that like
It's weird. I don't
when
think...
did fucking reality just slam?
Well, you know what's
Chris
funny? You
Remo.
know what's funny about that is that I also like simultaneously,
Yeah,
like,
Chris just flew too high as a kid, and that's why we have the Chris that we have today, I think.
well, but it was just in different ways. I mean, I guess I was probably pretty young at that time, but I remember also being like the only kid in whatever, I don't remember what year this would have been, but like whatever year I was in school who didn't think Santa Claus was real. And I got made fun of a lot because people were really pissed that because I didn't realize it was a thing that other people thought was real. I thought it was like known to be just like a made up thing that is just like you put him in a cartoon or whatever.
You showed all those kids, didn't you?
No, but it wasn't on purpose. Like I didn't realize that.
how
You
shook
wrecked
out.
their lives.
And they
all
were
think you're
really
genius.
Sorry for the Santa spoiler.
You're going to get reader mail about that.
So I just had a weird collection of like combination.
I thought you were going to
of
say
knowledge
like I
and
was
lack
at the
of knowledge.
store and my mom would go to pay for the groceries and you would just be shocked at how expensive groceries were. I remember the first time where I saw my mom spend $100 on groceries.
Oh yeah, that
I
was
remember-
like, yeah.
What the fuck?
I know. I do remember that as well.
Like,
yeah.
What in the...
Yeah, I went with my mom to an ATM once when like ATMs were reasonably new-ish, and she got out $200, and I was just like, when are you gonna spend that? Like, what is this? And then
Dad, no?
and then it was just groceries for a family of 4 and some errands. Like, we got a shirt or something. It's like, oh jeez,
Somebody needs socks. Little shoeless
That
Jake
took me.
right
That actually took me like a little while to get over. I remember like in college buying like just like how much things cost because I worked through high school, but
right.
like it's
well,
not
that's
the
I
same.
think that's partly also because age is kind of cumulative, right? Where I mean,
Yeah.
like I'm. How old am I? 34. 34. But I mean, when you're 30, you're effectively the part of your brain that's 29, 28, 27, 8, 7, 6, 5, all still basically coexist. There's always the voice in your brain when you have $100 that goes, man, $100.
I know. I still get that. Yeah, I know.
so dumb.
I'm going to spend
if I
this
ever
on
if
nerd
I ever
ropes.
take out cash from the ATM, I still generally get like 60 or 80.
Right, it's like-
because 100 feels
like so much
indulgent.
money.
It's like $100.
I'll tell you something. When you start getting the 100 out, because you're like, fuck it, I'm not coming back here in 6 days. When you start getting the 100 out, you're just like, you just don't get 60 anymore. You're just like, fuck it, I just don't. You know what? That's when you just realize, like, fuck it, I'm not good with money. Like when you start getting the 100
Did
out,
I tell my
realized-
stupid Santa Claus discovery, my friend's discovery of Santa Claus story on the podcast before?
no.
I have not heard it.
Send us out with
I mean,
this. Let's
maybe
hear
I
it.
don't know.
My friend Ben was like a super like core nerd. Like he always had the like Radio Shack build your own circuit kits that were like all the
yeah.
springs you could wire up where you'd like know what all the resistor bands mean and all
What
that
a
stuff.
dork.
Like just total dorko. Like I always hung out with him, but I had like I had like the 30-in-1 electronics kit cardboard thing, whereas he had like the 150-in-1 one. But he discovered that Santa Claus was not real. I feel like I've told this on the podcast before, but whatever. He hooked up like 2D batteries to an infrared LED and a thing that could pick up infrared LED signals, and that would close or open the circuit and sound a buzzer in his room. So he made a motion detector.
You made a Santa trap.
and he put it in front of
what
the
you're saying.
fireplace
Right.
of his house.
Yeah.
And it just buzzed when his dad was putting stuff in the stocking. So he set a fucking Santa Claus alarm out of circuitry that he built himself as like a lower grade elementary school student. And then he was like, yeah, he called me and was like, Santa's not real, it's my dad. That's how I found out Santa wasn't real. Because my friend fucking hacked Santa Claus with a bunch of crap from Radio Shack that he bought for like $3. Anyway, that's like the best and also just the most lame and sad, dumb way to find out the Santa.
That's exactly the thing that would be in a movie.
It's like an 80. It's like what the kid in like the nerd in the Goonies would do
definitely.
to discover the Santa. It's like what an 80s science nerd kid would do. Mm-hmm. He's also the guy who burned his entire face off when grinding his own model rocket fuel, and that got rid of all his acne. And
I remember that.
I did tell that story.
What?
Yeah. He drank out of a straw for like 3 weeks, and then he had like pristine
and then
skin.
underneath he was like a beautiful, handsome man. Are you sure it wasn't an excuse that he got plastic surgery and...
No, I know that he's the exact person who would think that it was a really good idea to, without wearing any safety equipment, just grind rocket fuel in his garage and then explode his face. His mom was not happy.
God.
Anyway,
ultimately, she was like pleasantly surprised.
That's why there's no Santa anymore. He got caught by that kid.
He got blown up by that
He got blown up by that rocket fuel. Yeah.
Sad times.
All right. Well,
On that bombshell.
On that note, Merry Christmas.
thanks for listening.
If you love this podcast, give us 3 to 5 stars on iTunes.
Yep. You can find us at idlethumbs.net/idlethumbs. Talk to you next week.
And he made a noise on Skype that I've heard very rarely in a grown human person. It was just like...
Try to do it.
Oh my God.